Hey there, my name's Jeff. See, I typically do a lot of YouTubing talking about stories of classic cars and trucks from my dealership, Bygone Classics. But I'm one of the thousands of heavy duty GMC and Chevy owners who love their MultiPro tailgate, but absolutely hate this button design. So I've had my truck now for 2 years, and I've replaced the full tailgate button twice. So I'm on my third one, and this will be my third top button because the inner tailgate now likes to open on its own. Not the end of the world for some folks, but if I'm towing and my tailgate suddenly opens up while I'm going down the road, depending on which trailer I have, that can be a really bad thing. So I want folks to know right out of the gate, yeah, I have my holes plugged. I've gone through all that, but I do run my truck through a touchless wash a lot. And so sometimes when I open the door, there we go. See? It opened up on its own. So I'm not going to screw around trying to dry anything out. I'm just going to go ahead and walk you through the process of how to replace both of these switches. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, the first step in this battle is to remove both of these covers on the tailgate here. So I always like to use a really small flathead screwdriver wrapped in tape, and I go ahead and I don't pry on the corner, but I just get underneath there and just pull up, and that should get one of the clips out. There we go. And then you go around and do that on, for the other one as well. So once this is up, at least I'm able to go ahead and get my fingers underneath there and pry this piece up. Difficult to do one-handed, so hang tight for just a moment. Okay, so I just got a little more leverage, and then they just pop out. So you're going to repeat that on the other side. I've found that by just getting underneath the plastic and sort of putting inward and upward pressure on the plastic keeps you from scratching your paint. And look, I know some of you are laughing, and I don't even care, but I do use my truck. It's 2 years old. I have 40,000 miles on it, but I also don't want it to look like crap. So I'm trying to use strategies that are going to keep from getting this thing scratched up. All right, next step is, if you see inside, you can see the switch on the left, which is going to be the upper for the inner tailgate. The upper portion has blue wire. So that's this guy. So if your upper tailgate, shoot, I'm gonna confuse language here. If the smaller portion of your tailgate, the MultiPro portion, the top button is the one that's out, this is the switch that you need. And that's part number 855-21471. I'll do what I can to see if I can link that somewhere. Otherwise, contact me, because I keep a dozen of these both in stock for buddies and things like that. If it's your main tailgate that isn't opening, that's the bottom button with yellow wiring, and that's part number 855-21472. And again, I keep both of these in stock here at my shop. I keep them, so if I'm traveling and something breaks, I can replace one on the fly. All right, I'll be back here in just a second and show you the process of taking this all apart. Okay, on each side here, you have that bolt. That's a 10 millimeter. I usually just pop on an extension, and you're going to remove those two bolts. Okay, so those two bolts are now out. Took me 10 seconds, and this is probably the most difficult part because we're working a little blind. So with those out, the panel here that holds the switches will come loose. See up on the top here where my finger is, there's a tab there. And you're going to push that tab back and push. So push it back and then push, and that'll loosen up that assembly. Again, difficult to do one-handed here, so I'm going to set the phone down and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, once you push that tab in and then down, this assembly just pops right out. You can see that there's another clip here on the top. And you can also see that even though I have the top of my tailgate plugged, a fair amount of water does get in here. So there's a good chance that is indeed what's causing my failure. It is what it is, I guess, at this point, right? So this is the guy I'm replacing today, this upper tailgate. So the process here is you have all these Torx bits here that kind of hold the frame to the individual switches. So I'm going to go ahead and get my bit, and I'll describe what that process looks like, but you need to remove all of those to access to remove the switch. Okay, we're back here, and what I'm using is a T15 Torx bit to remove these. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and then I'll count up how many there are so that you know how many to take off. But again, it's the ones here on the outside. If you don't have to, I don't believe I'm going to have to remove the ones here on the inside for some of these other cameras and things like that. So again, I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so there's 6 screws that you need to take out, and they're basically just around the perimeter. 1, 2, the 2 in the center here, 3, 4, and then 5, and then 6 right around the corner there. And once you do that, you'll notice that the frame separates. Again, one-handed, right? Hang tight, hang on. Okay, and so then this front shroud pops off. So with that out, you can then go ahead and you can replace whichever switch is giving you trouble. So again, for me today, it's the top one. And again, the reason for doing all this is we're actually going to go from the inside out and replace the switch that way. I don't know if there's a way to do this by not taking that faceplate off, but this is the way that I've been doing it since day one. So this is the way that works for me. All right. So as you go to release the switch, you'll notice on both sides there's that little tab. And so what I'm going to do is use that same screwdriver and just bend it back slightly, and then this switch will push through the front. Hang on for just a second. Okay, so all I did is I just pried ever so slightly on that tab, and it immediately loosens up. So then you can go ahead and the switch pops out of here. And again, I'll have to do it to the other side, again, very slightly. And I say that because you don't, when you're pushing in on that, you don't have to give it a ton of pressure. I don't want to risk, cracking anything on this frame piece or anything like that. So hang on just a second and I'll get the other side out. Okay. So again, you don't know this on your end, but it literally took 2 seconds, and then this pops through. Okay, so now coming back around the top, we know that it's this switch. So to remove the switch from the plug, what you need to do is, again, I used that same screwdriver that I used to take the caps off. And you want to just pop this red tab. Oops, I should probably be on it. pop that red tab out, and that will unlock the connector. So again, I'm going to set the phone down, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, and again, just go right where that lip is, and it'll unpop there. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but that unlocks the switch. Okay, so a couple things happened here. Since we went to go pop this out. So as soon as I unlocked the switch, my upper tailgate opened. So be aware that that could happen. So make sure that you have your trailer hitch out and things like that. But all you're going to do is once you pull that lock release out, you've got this little black tab right in front of it. You just push that down, and you'll feel the give. You'll feel it. And I use two hands because I like to keep another hand over on the other side of the switch, and or the connector, I should say. And they pull apart super easily. So from there, literally, this entire thing pops out, and the reverse is almost identical. So hang on, I'll pull out the new piece and show you how reassembly goes. Okay, so here's the bad switch. And again, we've got blue wiring here on the one that I just took out of the package. And reassembly is sincerely just the opposite. Okay, I brought my inner tailgate back up again just to make this a little bit easier. So again, you're just feeding your wiring through the hole. As you get the new switch in place, it literally just snaps in. And then you're going to take your wiring harness and feed it up back through the hole. All right, so we've got just enough there. And honestly, it's the same, it's just the opposite. So go ahead and plug that in. Push that clip down to lock it. And that's it, gang. So the only other tips that I do have is as you're reassembling the outer shroud to the inner piece here, I usually try to, sort of manipulate the piece so that my screwdriver threads all the screws in nice and straight so you don't risk stripping anything. Look, I don't know what torque these should be screwed down to. I don't crank. I just snug them up tight and move on to the next. The only other tip I guess I would have too is I do sort of a star pattern. I don't crank, I don't tighten one down and then tighten the opposite end down. I sort of get them all situated, threaded in, and then do my final tightening, in sort of a cross pattern. I hope this is helpful. I know that there's a lot of people having this issue with these upper and lower tailgate switches opening up on them randomly or not opening at all, which is a whole nother issue as well. So give me some feedback if there's anything that folks feel like I forgot, but I think this is the most proper way to go about doing this rather than trying to pry tabs out here. That all that stuff is just going to break. So thanks again. Appreciate you watching.